We're going to get going here in about 2 minutes. Thanks for your patience. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Lee. I'm the vice chair. I'll be filling in for Chairman Frank Rich for tonight. This is the Town of Alton Zoning Board of Adjustment public hearing, Thursday, September 4th, 2025. It is 6:04 p.m. here at the Alton Town Hall. Official call to order. Appointment of alternates. Somebody make a motion. We could appoint Paul Mozio.
I'll move that we appoint Paul Manzioni as a member of the board for this evening's purposes.
Paul Rochelle, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Just a quick note, we've had some transcription problems in past meetings, so I just asked the board members, when you are going to speak, if you could just preface it with your name first, and that would help the transcription of the minutes. They'll get it correct, whether Tim, myself, Paul, or Paul or Rochelle are speaking, so I appreciate that going forward. All right, let me get through the statement of the appeal process. The purpose of this hearing is to allow anyone concerned with an appeal to the Zoning Board of Adjustment to present evidence for or against the appeal. This evidence may be in the form of an opinion rather than established fact. However, it should support the grounds that the board must consider when making a determination. The purpose of the hearing is not to gauge the sentiment of the public or to hear personal reasons why individuals are for or against an appeal, but all facts and opinions based on reasonable assumptions will be considered. In the case of an appeal for a variance, the board must determine facts bearing upon the 5 criteria as set forth in the state's statutes. For a special exception, the board must ascertain whether each of the standards set forth in the zoning ordinance have been or will be met. All right, in regards to just the board members, we have Paul Manzioni at the far end, just been appointed our alternate, Tim Morgan, committee member, Paula Rochelle, selectman and committee member, and myself, as I announced earlier, Tom Lee, along with Norma Dietrich. That being said, as far as the agenda, Norma, has there been any changes with the agenda?
I believe your copy of the agenda has Miramichi Road as the first case, and that has been taken off. That case is coming in October.
Okay, so case Z25-12
From the agenda.
will be removed from the agenda for tonight, and looking at that possibly coming in October.
Correct.
Okay. Any other changes?
Nope.
All right, so our first case for tonight will be a rehearing. It's case Z25-15R, Prospect Mountain Survey, Josh Tebow and Sean Dunphy. Agents for Walter P. Borowski, Living Trust, Walter and Janice Borowski, trustees. Map 6, Lot 1, Eagles Way, Falcon Drive, and Osprey Road. It's a second rehearing for a special exception and variances in the rural zone. So if the parties concerned with KZ 25-15R would like to come forward, please. And just give us a moment to look over the application. I'll go to the board. I don't believe we have to go through the application process again. It's strictly a rehearing. Okay.
Right.
And gentlemen, if you could just hit the button there so it turns green. Yeah, you got it. And if you could pull it a little bit closer to you, thanks. And we'll all try to speak up for the transcription.
Sure.
Your name?
Good evening. My name is Sean Dunphy. I'm an attorney from Cronin, Bisson, and Zielinski in Manchester, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Walter and Janice Borowski. Mr. Borowski is here tonight in the back.
Excellent. Okay, so this is a rehearing. We've heard the case before. Without being redundant or going through the entire case, I will turn it over to Mr. Dunphy if explain your narrative going forward here for this rehearing.
Sure. So tonight we're here for another rehearing request. This is actually the sixth meeting in a row, I believe, that this application has been before the board in some form. We're here tonight seeking approvals to permit Mr. Borowski to provide 2 more houses in his existing manufactured housing community. Just briefly, it's a 55-home community that's currently in Alton. It's known as Eagles Rest. It was started back in 1986. It was built in 2 phases, and it has about 93 residents total now. We're asking to add 2 extra units. One is inside the aquifer zone and one is not. And you want me just to focus on the special exception right now?
Sure.
Correct. Okay. Just a little history of how we got here tonight. Mr. Borowski has been attempting to build these 2 units since May of '24. He submitted a building permit around that time, didn't receive a response within a few months, so he moved forward. He was told that he shouldn't have done that and immediately went and tried to correct the issue by going through the permitting process. It was at that time that he was alerted by town officials that for one reason or another, his entire property file for this 55 manufactured home community had gone missing, so he spent ample time and money recreating those lost plans. After that was done, he was advised to go to the planning board where he went for many meetings. After that, he was advised then he needed to come here. So this is where we've been. And I know, I reviewed the video from our rehearing request and heard your discussions, and I was happy to hear that, there was acknowledgement that the last meeting could have gone better. I agree with that. And I was also happy to hear that there was some acknowledgement, I believe, by you, Member Manzioni, that should be a discussion on whether or not this special exception even applies. It's been our contention through many meetings now that it doesn't. So tonight, my intent is to focus on that one issue in regards to the special exception. So I don't know if everyone has a copy of the zoning ordinance provision. I brought extra copies if we're happy to hand those out. So I can just make sure we're all on the same page.
Sure. Just to make sure, yeah.
You want me to?
Not sure if we do have it. Yeah, if you
a
more
fair
than one.
copy.
Thank you.
Right.
I don't have that.
Thank you.
And just for the sake of the record, this is Tom Lee. I just want to make sure we're talking right now about a special exception is requested for Article 600, Section 602C3 to permit an individual sewage disposal system within the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. That's what we're specifically talking to. It's number 1 on this case for Z2515R.
Correct, yes. And we've raised in multiple of our submissions that this ordinance provision doesn't apply to what we're doing. As you noted from the agenda, what we're actually seeking to do is to permit an individual sewage disposal system within the Aquifer Protection Overlay Zone. The actual zoning ordinance provision says on-site disposal of liquid or leachable waste by a septic system receiving discharge other than that of typical single-family domestic waste are prohibited unless a special exception is approved by the Zoning Board of Adjustment permitting septic discharges from uses other than single-family waste. This is one septic system. It is completely separate from all the other ones that are on the property. It is servicing one single home. So based on the plain language of the ordinance, this provision doesn't apply. And I understand that there's a disagreement between myself and town staff on that. I did have a chance to review the staff report, and it indicates that there is a 2-acre requirement in the rural zone for a septic system. Now, if you look at the zoning ordinance provision for the rural zone, the only provision on sewage drainage disposal facilities, it states, shall be available whether through septic tanks, dry wells, leaching fields, or systems adequate under the rules and regulations of the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Subsurface Systems Bureau. It doesn't say anything about a 2-acre minimum. It doesn't say that a septic system that is on a lot with other individual septic systems should all be construed as one system. That's not in your ordinance, and that's been our contention. I believe the term that this is not a single-family situation was used, but if you look again to the zoning ordinance, it doesn't use that terminology. It looks at the actual unit that we're requesting, and the agenda, which I believe was written by town staff, says individual septic system. So that is our contention tonight, and that's what I asked that the board make a determination on for this. I know I still talk about the variance. I don't know if you want to do them separate.
Just for my recollection, maybe the board's, there's 2 properties that we're going to be discussing tonight.
Correct.
Okay. This one is the one that you're asking for the exception for the individual septic.
In the aquifer, correct.
Right,
Yes, the
in the
other one
aquifer
doesn't.
overlay. The other one is going to be different than this one.
Correct. We just need the density variance for the other one.
Right.
The septic system doesn't need this because it's not in the aquifer zone.
Understood. Okay, thank you for that clarity. All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Paul Manzioni. So when you read this ordinance, where it says, other than that typical of a single-family domestic wastes, is that referring to the septic system? So in other words, it says on-site disposal of liquid or leachable waste by a septic system receiving discharge other than that typical of a single-family domestic wastes. So that's referring to the discharge or to the septic system, do you think? Because I think the question is when the code enforcement officer or when we get a review that says this is not a typical single-family situation or whatever that language was. I think that's because there are so many other septic systems on this same land, and that might make that atypical of a septic system receiving discharge. So I'm wondering if you construe this ordinance as saying that the discharge has to be typical of a single-family domestic wastes, or whether it's the septic system that has to be typical of a single family in order for the special exception to apply.
Well, in this situation, the only unit that's before you is the one septic system. I mean, I read it as a septic system, which is what we're asking for, receiving discharge other than that of typical single-family domestic waste. So we're still referring to that one system, and unless, you know, a special exception is approved, septic discharges from uses other than single-family waste. We don't have that here. We have one unit that's used for discharges for single-family waste.
So all of the other septic systems on the same property do not impact this one that is going to include the aquifer.
Correct. That is our contention, and I think, you know, the actual request that is written supports that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Yeah. Paul LaRochelle. How many other single septic systems are already in the aquifer protection overlay?
Currently, I believe there is 17 in,
That's what I thought, okay. So there's 17 in that area. And how many are on the community septic?
there are
23,
38 units on the community septic system.
okay. And is there any specific reason as to why none of these have been attached to the community septic system?
The community septic system, I believe, from our expert on that, who was Josh Tibble, at one of the last meetings, stated that it's about at capacity. There's no signs of failure. It's still working properly. So that's why they're just leaving that as is and trying to just add in new updated septic systems. And I will say my client has been in contact with Benchmark Engineering to do this work, to actually install the septic and do the septic designs. I believe they're in Alton as well, so they're a reputable firm. I'm just putting that out there.
Okay, thank you.
Tim Morgan, you said you read the minutes of our last meeting. I thank you for doing that. You may have seen that one of the things the board had been requesting was some sort of a permeability study or something to show that it's properly leach in the aquifer protection area. Why did you not bring that tonight?
Because we're here tonight just to get a determination on whether or not the board believes this ordinance applies. We've already filed with the court. We're ready to go on that and let a judge decide, but you granted our rehearing, so that's what we wanted to present tonight.
You filed with the court to decide what?
For this very issue, to get a judge to decide it's been stayed pending this hearing.
Thank you.
So, Paul LaRochelle, so according to what you just said, nothing has changed since the last time that you applied?
Correct, and
Yeah. No other additional information or anything is in this case tonight?
no, it's still our contention that this doesn't apply, and that's what we're asking for a decision on. There was a question raised at the last rehearing request, which was granted again to bring us back here, so I am touching on that because that's what Member Manzioni noted.
Okay, thank you.
May I, Paul Manzioni, the aquifer that's involved in this special exception, is that the same aquifer that the other 17 leach systems are using?
The others, okay, yeah, it's the same aquifer. It's a very large aquifer, so yes, it would all be the same.
One of the points of the last hearing was the back and forth over hydrologist report, and we're not going to go back through all that, but Tim Morgan just asked if there's been any study or any follow-up, and if I hear you correctly, no, you're trying to pursue the special exception as it stands on its merit and how you understand how it's written up in our zoning board ordinances.
Correct.
Okay.
May I ask Paul Manzioni again? So do you think that the wastes that the aquifer is receiving, given that there are 17 individual dwelling units that are using it for the waste, do you think that if 17 other homes, if you will, are putting waste in the aquifer, the same aquifer as the one you're requesting with the special exception, do you see that that's not typical of a single-family domestic waste?
I don't think that's what the ordinance is asking for. I think, again, we're focusing on the one additional septic system we're talking about. I will note that the state has found that this septic load capacity for this property is much greater than what we're asking. I think it's over 100 units is what they believe this property can withstand with the amount of waste. So I don't think it applies the question you're asking, but I think this property is more than safe based on the expert opinions that we've provided in the past and the state approvals that were already granted.
So if it's determined that the special exception is needed, because the language includes this situation, because it's not typical of a single-family use, given that there are 17 other homes that are using the same aquifer for the waste, then you'd be prepared to go forward and present on the special exception and to take the position that the DES and your expert says it's okay, even though there are 17 other units. Is that right?
Right. I mean, at this point, like I said, we're here to get a determination on whether or not it applies. We're prepared to let a judge decide. If the judge says it applies, then we do it. But it's our contention that it doesn't apply. So.
In answer to my question, then you wouldn't want to go forward. If the board said it does apply, you don't want to have that hearing tonight as to whether you're entitled to it. You're going to go forward with the court and see whether it applies.
I mean, at this point, if the board says it applies, as was noted, we're presenting the same info, so I guess it would be the board's discretion. I would assume it would be similar findings as the last time, but I mean, I'm willing to present it if that's what is asked of me.
Thank you.
Dumpy, do you have said documentation in regards to 100 units could handle the load there?
I don't have it with me. I don't know if we've presented that. Have that. Do you want to come up and speak to the? Just about the DES approvals and how that came about for the over, what was it, 100?
Yeah, when we did,
Could you just say your name, please, sir?
when we
Thank you.
did the original plan,
Introduce yourself.
we had to do a septic loading design for the whole parcel, 57-acre parcel. And it was determined that the parcel could handle 451 451 bedrooms, which equates to 150-something units. We have 55 units there. Originally, when I sat here 40 years ago, the original plan was for 55 units on the master septic system. And then when I stopped the development in the early to mid 80s, the state began approving smaller septic systems, presbys and virotubes, things like that. And it became more feasible, more economical to put in individual systems for the last 19 units. And so that's what we did. So we have basically an overcapacity community system servicing the 36 homes that are on there, and the other 19 homes have individual septic systems, some of which are in the aquifer protection zone, some of them which aren't, and I've never had a problem. We've always done state-approved septic systems. The town has always approved building permit plans for those other units, and I assume this would not be a problem, but 14 meetings later, and a lot of money spent over the, that hopefully I can recover at some point in time. A lot of money spent, and most importantly too, one home removed from the town's ability to provide housing for its senior citizens. Our average age is 75 plus. In the past 40 years, we have turned in millions of dollars of tax dollars into the town, and what have we received for services? Maybe a couple of kids in 40 years. I can't ever recall a fire truck being in there. Once in a while, the police will come in because somebody's worried about their relative. They'll do a welfare check, but we do have our own water system. As you know, our own septic systems. We plow our own roads. We've been good citizens of the town. That's why I was shocked that when I applied for this permit back in February of 24 with the town planner, and then when I put in my building permit application on May 3rd, 24, I was shocked that this was all a problem, but evidently it is.
Okay, and you are Walter Borowski?
I am.
Okay,
I'm the
thank
one.
you, just for the record, thank you. Duly noted, the housing, elderly, et cetera, tax dolls, all very positive stuff, but just understand where we're coming from, just from the point of the aquifer is a very sensitive area, and we want to make sure that's protected, because we'd have much bigger problems in our hands if it
And I
wasn't.
totally agree with you, and that's why, we went to the state, and, their engineers determined, yes, you can put a individual septic system on that parcel. It's, their requirement, because we have community water, so the requirements are basically 10,000 square feet, and we don't have a lot in there that's 10,000 feet. All of our homes, as if you've ever driven through the property, have garages and outbuildings and things like that, so I don't know what the average lot size is, but it's well in excess of 10,000 square feet. And obviously, the septic system would be state approved. And we did the test pit when we did the subdivision application, and, it turned out fine, no perceived water, no ledge. And the site's an old gravel pit, if anybody can remember back.
Anything else, Mr. Dunphy or Mr. Borowski, you'd like to add?
Not on the special exception, no.
Thank you. Anything more from the board? Okay. We can go to a special exception worksheet. I don't think there was one in my packet. Maybe you guys have one available. But before we get to that, let me open up the hearing at this point to any public input. Is there anybody in the public who's in favor of this proposal? You could certainly come forward and express your thoughts in favor. Yeah, if one of you just want to get up for the moment, he just can use the microphone. That's fine.
Roger Sample. I just want to make one point. This is about the aquifer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So he's got a community water system, okay? So his water is drawn from where the aquifer, right below. Now, that water system is tested. How often?
Every month.
Every month. That water is tested. So if this park was damaging the water, it would show up in a community water system thing. Now, by denying him to put it here in the aquifer, you're not denying this guy that lives right next door to the park. He's in the aquifer. This guy's in the aquifer. This guy's in the aquifer. It goes all the way downtown. Everybody's above the aquifer. That's above the aquifer, obviously. But his water is tested. Theirs isn't. So he's asking to add one building that's already there, because they didn't tell him he couldn't have it before when he applied. But so he's just trying to add one, and the state has already approved it. The system that he has there originally is for 90, which he hasn't put 90 people into. So he's not overburdening the park. And it's all about the aquifer, and like I say, his water's tested every month, and if there's going to be a problem, it would show up in his tests. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward in favor of this special exception? Take it as no, okay. Is there anybody in the public who is in opposition of this special exception? Would you please come forward? Yeah.
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name is Maureen Kalfas. I live on Church Street. I have followed this from the day that Mr. Borowski was involved with Richard Bly putting that in. I believe it was set up as a community where people could retire to and live comfortably. I believe that the park cost has now precluded many people who were living there. I have a business And I have heard from many people, Maureen, where are we going to go? Do you know what my park rent is? And I think that when it is presented as a financial, viable place for seniors to go, when they pay the park rent, when they pay taxes on their property, when they pay insurance on their property, a mortgage if they have it, but we're gonna guess that they don't, buy cable, have television service, you're looking at about and you're looking at about $11,000 a year. That to me is a misrepresentation of affordable, because I don't see people that are retired on a fixed income as this being a viable alternative for them. I have rental property, and my rental property is nowhere near that kind of cost. And I understand that they provide plowing and septic every 2 years. But I really have to question when they present it as affordable. Because I think if you surveyed the people there, you'd find that many of them are really, really strapped on what they're paying.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else in the public that is in opposition to this case would like to come forward?
You're in opposition.
Walter wants to tell you how much lower his park rent is than all the other places.
Of comparable communities in the state, we are second from the bottom as far as rental rates go. If you go east on Route 11, Cocheco River, that everybody can see from Route 11 is $900. You go out on 140, Great Brook Village is $200 more than we are. Have always been the lowest, if not one of the lowest in the state. And I agree. I mean, fees for everybody are I understand, but you don't have to pay my rubbish fee when I double it every 3 years and so forth and so on. That's life. That's a bigger social problem than we're here to discuss tonight.
Understood. At this point, I'll close it to, and, yes. Absolutely. Your name, please? Yeah.
Regular single family. Yeah. Typical of a single family home.
Found that this particular system is located in an aquifer. There were, forget how many other systems you said already. 18, thank you. The fact that this system will be operating along with 18 other systems, does that impact at all the type of discharge you expect from this system? And related question, what sort of wastes do you anticipate are going to be going through this system?
It's a three-family.
Typical of a single family home. There have actually been studies that show that an individual septic system is healthier for the aquifer because it's returning filtered water back into the system itself versus carrying it off. So the system is actually receiving filtered water back into it that was sucked up by your community water system.
And did your team look at impact of all those other systems on this particular system?
I believe the state would have done that
Okay,
when they approved it.
look at that.
I assume they did, sure.
The state,
Have it off. I assume they did. They wouldn't have approved it unless they did. They looked at the test pit result and they looked at all the neighboring systems and then looked at the capacity of the parcel itself in order to approve it. And our design would fall in line with all of those different parameters.
Chair. Before you deliberate, happy to do that, but it's entirely up.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll ask the board. Would you like to confer with legal counsel before we go to the worksheet? Okay. So just for the record, the public input is officially closed, and the board will commence some back and forth with legal counsel here before, if we get to the worksheet. Is that suitable?
Yeah, this is Paul Muncy. The only thing I would add is the worksheet kind of concludes that we've decided that the special exception is necessary.
Right.
And I think maybe an answer on that question is required first. And then because if we all agreed a special exception isn't even necessary, then we don't need to hold the applicant to the criteria on the worksheet. So just to clarify that point, and then
Yep.
I would agree, maybe we meet with counsel.
Okay. All right, you guys, we want to step outside? Do you want to have them come up here? Step outside? Okay.
Probably. I think.
Okay, we'll take a brief recess. We'll talk with counsel and we'll be back. Appreciate your patience. Okay, we'll resume the meeting. I appreciate everybody's patience.
Thank you.
We want to make sure, as we always do at the zoning board, that we're weighing everything out completely fairly for the applicant. We're keeping everything fair and just for the town as the ZBA board, and trying to walk through any concerns or issues we may have. And that's why town council is here and gave us some interesting information going forward and what we discussed. I'm going to turn it over to Paul Manzioni, and he's going to go through the Article 602C3 that we were in discussion over.
Thank you. So one of the things that we were fortunate to be able to do is to look at this article very carefully again, and this time with the benefit of town council. And one of the first things we determined is, we need to rewrite this, okay, a little more clearly. And some of us are on the zoning amendment committee, and this could use a little clarity in the way that it's worded, which is why both town council and I and others had questions for you as to what do you think this language applies to, what the stuff is. As of now, our interpretation in going over this carefully is that the article specifically is applying to the liquid or leachable wastes. And so if the liquid or leachable wastes are not typical of a single-family dwelling, not the septic system, but the waste itself, then you need a special exception, is our interpretation of how this is drafted. If the liquid or leachable wastes are typical of a single-family dwelling, then you don't need the special exception. And all of the information that has been provided to us this evening allows us to conclude that the liquid or leachable wastes involved in this septic are indeed typical of a single-family domestic waste, and therefore the special exception is not necessary. But we have to take an official vote on that and see if that's the decision. That was our interpretation.
Would you like to make a motion?
I would make a motion then in light of that interpretation of Article 602 C3 that the board find that for this particular application of case Z25-15R special exception, that the special exception is not necessary under the ordinance.
I'll second that motion. Tim Morgan, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the board finds 4-0 that the special exception is not necessary.
Thank you.
All right. In regards to the variance, is requested for Article 400, Section 452A1 to permit 57 manufactured housing units in a park where only 28 are allowed per the rural zone density restrictions. We'll now handle that variance. I would ask council, it's our recollection, the last time we had the hearing, we walked through the variances.
Yes, that is correct. And one was approved and then this one was denied.
Okay, so the first variance was approved, which related to,
That was setback relief for one of the units. I would have to go back.
3.9,
Yes,
3.9 within the 30-foot interior part setback.
correct, yes.
and that was approved.
That is correct, yes.
Do you actually know the vote on that?
I have the notice of decision.
So you don't want to rehear that one, obviously.
No.
Correct, yes. No, we're good on that one.
So this variance we're speaking to with Article 400, Section 452A1 was denied.
Yes, the density one, and then I have the vote here. It was a motion passed 5-0 for a variance from Article 300, Section 350B2C which was the 3.9 setback, 3.9-foot setback. So that one was approved. We're good with that one. So, yes.
And this variance was denied. What was the vote on that variance?
That one was 4-1.
4-1. 4 opposed, 1 for.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Do you
So-
have the vote on the various criteria? Did you record that?
I have the notice of decision. Do you want me just to read it, or do you want me, I can bring it over if you want? Yes. I got it. I only have one copy, but do you want?
Sure.
Bring it up.
Thank you. All right, so all right, I'll run through the criteria. It- Okay, and I'm sure we'll see if it matches up, but first was the plat was submitted in accordance with the appropriate criteria. That's a yes.
Yes, my all.
Right, the specific site is not an appropriate location. All five were against it not being an appropriate location. Factual evidence is not found the property values in the district, so everybody agreed that was all in.
I believe that's the special exception, not the
Yeah, that's a
variance.
special exception.
Yeah.
I think it's the next page.
Hold
Yeah.
on. Hold on, I have another one here. Sorry, here it is. Sorry. Yes. Interest. It's the first one.
Okay, so public interest will not be contrary to public. Everybody agreed, that passed. In regards to spirit of the ordinance, the request is not in harmony. Everyone voted against, it was not in harmony with the master plan. Substantial justice, by granting us a variance, substantial justice will not be done. Everybody was in agreement. Values of the surrounding properties will not diminish, everybody agreed. And on the back, yes, everybody agreed. 4-1, 4-1 in regards to hardship. So we can go through the variance worksheet again as a board.
Mr. Chairman, might I propose something here? I think I would like an opportunity to go back and read through the minutes of that meeting and see what people's comments were with respect to the way they cast their ballots. And in order to do that, I would ask that we continue this variance for a month to give us a chance to do a little homework and find out exactly what the basis was for these conclusions.
Appreciate that motion, Mr. Corbett. I'm wondering if maybe if you heard from the applicant, let them do the presentation, that might fill in some of the gaps they're proposing and their argument for why they believe it's necessary. And then you can perhaps make that motion later on if you still feel like.
I think that's appropriate.
Unless the applicant.
No, we're good with presenting.
Okay, here you go, you can have this back.
And can I, if I may, Mr. Vice Chair,
Spirit
point out,
order.
I think that it's just my recollection, but a lot of the findings of no, if you will, that the criteria weren't met, I think were based in large part on the aquifer issue. You know, that because the aquifer thing wasn't right, and some of these others aren't. And so I think now that we've made a determination on that, it would be helpful to hear it again, so. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do have the minutes here. You want to look at them real quick?
Yeah, Norma just forwarded a copy to me. So
Oh, okay.
Okay, so if council wants to go forward with this variance?
Yes,
Okay.
please, thank you. So this variance is to permit 57 manufactured housing units where only 28 are allowed under the current zoning ordinance. I will start by noting that when this park was created, the zoning ordinance required 1 acre for each lot. So that is a unique characteristic of this property. I'll just briefly go through all the elements. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest. That focuses on whether the essential character of the neighborhood is changed or there's a threat to public health, safety, or welfare. Here, this is an existing manufactured community on 57 acres. We're requesting to add 2 more units within the existing manufactured housing community. It will match the existing neighborhood. There won't be any threat to public health, safety, or welfare. There's already an existing infrastructure. The roads are there. Mr. Borowski maintains them and plows them. They're all private. There's, as we have gone through, going to be a septic system and water available. Then the request is in harmony with the spirit of the ordinance, the intent of the master plan, and with convenience, health, safety, and character of the district within which it is proposed. This is again within an existing manufactured housing community. It is already, a part of this zone. It's near the high school and a few other commercial uses. And I know I've shown this before, but the master plan, I have it here, has noted a need for housing in Alton. It shows on one of the pages, if I can find it real quick, that there is a push to make housing a little more closer to preserve more open space. That's the setup Mr. Borowski has here. And it's, again, a self-sustaining property that is buffered from the surrounding community. Substantial justice will be done. Here, Mr. Borowski is just seeking to add 2 additional units for housing. As you heard, there's concerns about rental prices in this community. There's 2 ways of dealing with inflation and other things. It's raise prices or increase the number of units. Mr. Borowski is trying to maintain the pricing by increasing the units by 2. And there is no benefit to the community in denying this variance because it is within an existing community, and we're just asking to add 2 more units. There will be no diminution in surrounding property values because these 2 units are well within the existing community. And then the hardship, as I said, this property is unique in that it was designed and laid out at a time when it actually would have been allowed to have these 2 extra units. The zoning ordinance has changed since then. It's, I believe it's one of the few existing manufactured housing communities in this area. And the proposed use is reasonable because of the existing nature of the property, and no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance and the specific application to the property because it is an existing community and it is well large enough to support these 2 extra units. I know I've just talked a lot, so I'll stop. So,
Could you just, Tim Morgan, could you just address for us briefly what you think the hardship is?
So under the hardship, we need to look at, the unique characteristics of the property, which is it's an existing manufactured housing community. It was designed at a time when this density would have been allowed, 1 unit per 1 acre. It's 57 acres. And then we look at the fair and substantial relationship between the general public purposes of the ordinance and the specific application to the property. When we talk about acreage and, lot sizes, that's meant to avoid overcrowding and avoid things such as, too many houses in one area. In this case, that's what these types of manufactured housing communities are meant to be. They're meant to be closer together, and that supports the affordability. So the section of the ordinance applies to the rural zone, but it is, not how this property has been set up. And then the proposed use is reasonable because we're asking for 2 additional units on an existing manufactured housing community.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. At this point, I'll open up the hearing to any public input. Anybody who would like to come forward in favor of this variance request? That would be a no. And is there anybody in the public who is opposed? Anybody in opposition to this variance? Please come forward. That's also a no. So at this point, I'll close the hearing to any public input. If there's nothing further, Mr. Dunphy?
No, I'll just conclude by saying again that I appreciate that we dealt with the special exception and we all got on the same page as that. As Member Manzioni noted that the last time we were here, there was a lot of concern about that special exception that went over to the variance. And I know at one point I rewatched everything and read everything, and I know at one point it was said that this was a good application, but we needed more information, and it was all based on the special exception. So hopefully, we just ask that the variance be approved and we can get this property all settled. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
We get a worksheet?
Variance.
We don't have any worksheets.
Yeah, I have one. All right, at this point, then we will go forward with the worksheet. In regards to public interest, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest.
I agree.
I agree, there's no market change to the community, it's simply adding one more, or two more residences to an already established community.
I agree.
Spirit of the ordinance. The request is in harmony with the spirit of the ordinance, the zoning ordinance, and the intent of the master plan, and with the convenience, health, safety, and character of the district within which it is proposed. The master plan does look for the improvement of building and having more buildings available for the public. Also, I think that because of the special exception, and the question of the special exception was also a factor in the decision of making the request not being in harmony with the zoning, and without the special exception there, and the ordinance for the spirit of the ordinance, of the zoning ordinance, I believe it is in harmony.
I'll agree.
I would agree that it is in harmony. I think that a community of houses or dwelling units like this is consistent with the master plan and what the town needs.
I agree.
By granting the variance, substantial justice will be done. In this case, the benefit to the applicant outweighs any detriment to the people of the town of Alton.
I agree that substantial justice will be done.
I agree.
I agree for the same reasons.
The request will not diminish the value of surrounding properties. There's been no evidence of any kind, whether members of the public or otherwise, that provide any basis for showing that this variance will in any way diminish the value.
I agree.
And what we should be saying, Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
In regards to hardship, for purposes of the subparagraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. One, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. That would be yes. And the proposed use is a reasonable one. I also believe that's a yes.
I, Paul LaRochelle, agree.
Tim Morgan, I think the hardship here lies in the fact that it's a community with small lots. It's been established for some time and is intended to continue in that vein, and the use is not changing, so it's a reasonable one.
Paul Manzioni, I agree with what Tim just said, and I think that what sets this property apart from other properties, that distinguishes this from other properties, is that it is that community of homes, and the proposed use is, of course, reasonable. It's residential.
All right, at this point, can we have a motion for KC 2515, huh?
I would make a motion that the application of case Z 25-15R for variance be approved.
And just for the note of the record, the specific variance of Article 400, Section 452A1.
Correct, I would add that to the motion.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right?
All right, gentlemen, congratulations. I'd just like to make one note. I appreciate for the town council to be here and helping us through this matter.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Borowski. Good luck.
And good luck.
I don't think so. No.
Thank you.
Maybe we should have council stick around until Monsignor continues.
He didn't want him to. Damn. I think he's gonna continue because there's only three of us. I think he's gonna continue. He'll wait for a full board. Good job. That was, I mean, it was good to have people who was that made a big difference. Not that, like, finding how we look at the stuff. That needs, my biggest thing was precedent setting. You know, they cleared that up. Yeah. Yeah.
Coming up on the other, didn't we have something looking at those lots previously?
Well, it was a while ago. They just withdrew. I'm sure it was, they withdrew. We had approved that. We did, and those people decided not to purchase. I think it just moved on.
Okay, going forward here, we have new application, KC 25-30, the applicant. Map 9, lot 33-2, New Hampshire Route 11, 239 Henry Wilson Highway. It's an administrative appeal in the rural residential.
Your mic off, John. Your mic is off.
That'd be nice, huh? As painful it is, I will say that all again. Now we're dealing with KC 25-32, Paul Monzioni applicant. Map 9, lot 33-2, New Hampshire Route 11, 239 Henry Wilson Highway. It's administrative appeal in the rural residential zone. Administrative appeals requested for Article 500, Section 520E, in reference to the Planning Board's interpretation of the 2-year deadline in the Alton zoning ordinance and predetermination of the application prior to hearing on 6/17/25. Gentlemen.
Thank you. My name is Stephen Nix. I represent Paul Monzioni, and Mr. Monzioni would request a continuance based on the 3-member board.
Okay.
We apologize for everyone having to come out.
Understood. So, as with any case, when the board only has, meets the minimal quorum of 3 people, an applicant can decide whether to hear the case or not hear the case. And in this matter, the applicant, Paul Monzioni, and his legal counsel would like to continue this case when there are more board members available. Correct?
Tim Morgan, I'll move we grant the application for a continuance.
Paul LaRochelle, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This matter should be continued to the following month, which would be in October. And as far as the members are concerned, it is my opinion that we would certainly have at least 4 members available. Yes.
It'll be the first Thursday of October.
That date?
I have Thursday, October 2nd as the next ZBA meeting.
No problem. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, next case to be heard. This case is Z25-33. Apex Land Solutions LLC, agent for Sand Street Investments LLC. Map 9, Lot 10, Route 11, Henry Wilson Highway. It's a special exception in the rural zone. A special exception is requested for Article 400, Section 401D 14 to permit a building trade shop. And with the parties for AC 25-33, please come forward.
Thanks, Nick.
Fiscal reason they decided to go forward with the project, and they never purchased the property, I guess. Something fell through, maybe, I guess, like. The application, let's see if it's concerns here for that first. Not we recognize this problem. Right. Yeah. I remember that, yes. Like, yeah. Who's here? So, yeah.
Well, it's what, I didn't see him sitting out there.
Is there an applicant here?
Yes, he stepped out. He stepped out talking. He'll be right in.
That was Dave Hayes, talking to Steve Nix. No, someone else?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think he stepped out before you continued, so he thought he had time. Must have went downstairs.
Ryan?
I think he thought he had time.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
He stepped out before Paul. Nick went to go get him.
I think this has minute.
How was that?
Did you call? I can give him a call.
We can all call in at once.
Is this property located? Do we have where this property is
Hey,
located?
Ryan, you're up. We're waiting for you. He's coming.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Is that, oh, does that show where this property is, like on Route 11?
Yes,
Can I see that?
yes.
I don't have that.
You don't have this?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. I introduced the case, and if you could just state your name for the record, and we'll look over the application.
Turn your mic.
There you
Does
go.
that work?
You're good.
Okay. My name is Ryan Heath. I'm here on behalf of Apex Land Solutions as a partner and agent. My apologies to the board. But what was the first case that we were starting with? Is it the trade shop or the automotive?
It would be the trade shop,
Okay.
KC 25-33.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll go through.
One second, we're going to go through the application, and then I'll give it over to you.
Sure.
Thank
The
you.
Vice Chair, Paul Rochelle, I'd like to make a motion to accept KZ 25-33 as complete.
Second, Tim Morgan, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Mr. Heath.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to clarify, you said we're going to start with the automotive garage?
The trade shop.
Oh, trade shop. Okay, just want to make sure I was on the right application.
Yep.
As you know, this is sort of a joint site plan with two different businesses, two different applications. But I will speak to each one specifically because they're different types of businesses, different type of special exception. So first and foremost, these properties are both located just outside the traffic circle, heading towards New Durham. On the right-hand side, they back the river, heading into New Durham. It's tax map 9, lot 10 and 10-1. These are two lots of record. This one in particularly is 1.9 acres in size. The proposal here in front of you is for, on this particular lot, which is lot 10, the 1.9 acres, to put it would be under the actual application, we would like to put an HVAC business in. But the best application under the table of uses fell to a building trade shop. And that's really the only thing we found that really suited an HVAC shop. And just about the build, this is an existing business in town that is losing their location, and we're trying to locate them within the same town that they reside in and work in, service. And the business itself intends to use the location mainly for housing their work vehicles. The business has approximately 8 work vehicles right now, vans and box trucks. They want to use the garage. It's proposed to be a 50 by 70 garage space, and that is to house things like ductwork, boilers, PVC piping, all the parts and components that you would think that would go along with an HVAC business. And just to kind of help things along, I was going to go through the criteria and what my responses are to each one for the board, if that's okay. And number one, that the platter plan has been submitted in accordance with the zoning regulations 520B. And my thoughts is that, yes, that it has met that requirement. Number two is the specific site is an appropriate location for this business. I believe it's a great location in the fact that it's serviced by a state highway. It's outside the village area. It's not in any compact residential area. Most of the neighboring and residential areas are serviced by a different road, per se, like the New Durham Road. Most of those properties back Route 11, but they're being serviced or using frontage on New Durham. Same thing is a lot of the abutter notices that expanded out went across the river to Baxter Place. But it would remove the business and its environment, I think, reasonably away from other residential areas that may be affected. Factual evidence is not found that the property values in the district will be reduced due to incompatible uses. Again, being on Route 11, I believe that that's a good stretch of road for a commercial business in the sense that there's not very much residential housing on Route 11. I know that there are some properties that back it, but mainly, besides on that side of the road, you have the mobile home park that's further down. There is also a home, I believe it's a residential business combo, the old Swiss building there, that's just before the entrance to the mobile home. So I don't see that there's any factual evidence that the property values would be reduced in that area. There is no valid objection from abutters based on demonstrable fact. Obviously, I haven't heard from any abutters, and there may be some here tonight, so I guess I'll reserve in case an abutter brings a new objection up. Again, I didn't foresee any large objections because of the location in far proximity to most of the abutters' homes or their lifestyles. Number 5 is there is no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrians or vehicle traffic, including the location and design of the access way and off-street parking. As you can see by the conceptual design, our plan here is to have a shared driveway off of Route 11. There is, obviously, when they subdivided this lot, it wasn't that long ago, I believe it was 1996. That driveway cut off Route 11 is part of that. We have been in conversations with DOT on preliminary discussing that access. It doesn't seem to be a problem. But the point is to use one consolidated access for both businesses being presented tonight so that it reduces the amount of cuts. It improves sight line for pulling in and pulling out. I also think Route 11 is great in the sense of how the extreme width it has, the breakdown lanes, cars can pull off out of the way and slow down and not risk being rear-ended by other traffic coming in. And the properties are in an appropriate location that the speed limit changes, and there's enough distance coming out of the traffic circle that it wouldn't sneak up on people right as they exit the circle. Number 6 is the adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities will be provided to ensure the proper operation of the proposed use or structure. As you can see in this area, it's proposed that these buildings will be serviced by a private septic system and a private well. We have done a site assessment. It was done by Stony Ridge Environmental. Given, obviously, there's a close proximity to the river that backs those properties, puts it in the shoreline protection zone, which we will require a state shoreline permit, which we're prepared to do upon, obviously, an approval to move forward. But the preliminary assessment done by their experts did a preliminary delineation of what there is for runoff, where the high water mark is, and then putting these conceptual buildings with the amount of infrastructure and building envelope that's required. And that preliminary assessment shows that we have plenty of space and adequate room to make sure that we have the utilities, the parking, and the space for the business without impacting, obviously, any of the shoreline or that 50-foot no impact area. There are 2 identified cross culverts from Route 11 that dump out on the properties. And of course, they create a wetland stream that runs down to the river. So those being discounted as usable space or upland, the assessment was still favorable for us to be able to put these businesses in here. Number 7, there is adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supply. Again, I won't make that redundant. I just spoke to that on number 6 with the utilities and stuff. It is private well, private septic, and our preliminary assessments show that we have enough upland and building envelope there to meet the criteria to get an acceptable septic system through the state and also a permit through shoreline, a state shoreline permit. Not to mention, there is, when this was subdivided under the original recorded subdivision from 1996, there were 2 test pits that were done to show the required buildable area for state subdivision approval and local subdivision approval. And that test bit data was favorable at the time to support, obviously, a buildable lot. Number 8, the proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit of this ordinance and the intent of the master plan, because I believe that it's consistent because the master plan supports small business. Again, I said this is an existing small business that is losing their location and looking to stay in town to continue to service town, townspeople, local businesses in surrounding areas. And the master plan promotes that. It also promotes it only in suitable areas where it's not going to be a burden in the middle of a residential cul-de-sac or area congested by, regular residential homes and kids in that area. It kind of removes it out of the area, which is consistent with the master plan. And it also is an increase in the tax revenue where commercial tax revenue doesn't draw on our services as much. So it's more revenue for the town coming in with business. And our intent with these buildings is that these are going to be conventional stick-built structures. The garage type, but we're going to face the garage doors to the rear. The front of the buildings will have appropriate windows, residential style egress windows. They will be a little higher, so they're not workbench height. But the garage itself is designed to have 14-foot ceilings. They will have a floor truss system that's about 24 inches deep on the top, and then there'll be attic trusses on the top. It will be well below the 35-foot height requirement, but the traditional stick framing, asphalt shingles, traditional vinyl siding will be consistent with other residential structures in the area, preserving the rural character of the community in that area. We're also looking to put some dormers to break up the big rectangle look of a garage, put some false dormers or some functional dormers off the attic space facing the roadway to break that up and make the structure a little more curb appeal for the residents in the area. And both the buildings, one is 50 by 70 and the other one's 60 by 80, but all similar construction, similar truss design, and they'll be consistent as far as the stick built and the vinyl siding. So feeling that is all consistent with the master plan. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
So the size, it's a large building.
Yes.
And you mentioned storage of HVAC equipment, ductwork, et cetera. Is there actually going to be work taking place inside of it?
No, so the intent of it is that they, this business, the way they operate is they book their clients and they respond to the site. The site would be used more for a base of operation where their vans and their box trucks will be parked. The employees will come in, park their personal vehicles, and then they back into the garage area, and they load up with the daily supplies based on what they're being tasked with, and then they leave for the day. So their trip generation, things like that, would be minimal in comparison to other large businesses that do in-house business. But no, the plan is not that, they may have clients from time to time that will come in to book an appointment, but no, there will be no HVAC work being done on site.
Everything that is fabricated on site, on the site of where the job location is. This is Paul LaRochelle.
Sure.
On that, and the building is 50 by 70. Is there going to be a second floor?
Yes, just an attic truss system.
the attic truss?
Yeah, the plan is right now is that the business is just looking to use it for storage. It's not going to be finished space. It's just going to have subfloor on the attic. So there will be an L-shaped staircase from the base to get up to the storage, but they're just going to use it for dry storage up top.
With the building being of that size, will some of the vehicles being parked inside at night?
Yes, there is the potential that some of them will be loaded the night before and housed inside. I will say that the building with the mass is mainly being used for larger boilers and equipment and stuff like that, so it won't be fully open for it. But they also need to, you know, between loading the vehicles back and forth between their tools and equipment every day, there will be a few that will be parked overnight, but he will not be able to house all of his vehicles in there. So, you know, the parking, the L-shaped parking is designed so that he can line his service vehicles up out back, and then you sort of stage them for the next day.
Thank you.
This area can handle the delivery of the HVAC, a tractor trailer, driveway can handle that.
Yes, absolutely. The entrance coming off Route 11 has got to be designed by state standards, which is a 50-foot right-of-way. So that'll be a wide, two-way designed access way coming in and opening right up into two large parking areas that will surround two sides of the building. So there's plenty of turnaround and safe place for deliveries and things of that nature.
In exiting that property, is that a right turn only?
So right now, that will be something that'll be defined by the state. That has not been defined yet. The intention would be that it wouldn't be, but that again is going to be on the trip generation, that the state is gonna require in combination with both businesses. But that would definitely be something that they'll look at as to whether it's gonna be right turn only out of there or not.
Mr. Vice Chair, Paul LaRochelle again. I noticed that there's a public foot traffic right-of-way, 10-foot right-of-way to the Meeting River. And that's being relocated to where the driveway area is, where people would still walk between the buildings?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
So in looking at the previous subdivision that was found to be on, designated on the property, I will say that that is not in use, that is not defined, it's heavily wooded and treed. So for somebody to use it right now, they'd be walking through underbrush that's probably as tall as them. So the idea was that it was really, only being located roughly about 10 or 15 feet from the location that it was depicted on the previous plan, and just thought it made more sense that if we're gonna cut an access way into the parking, that we allow any foot traffic that should wanna use that right of way, to be able to utilize the actual maintained access.
How big a lot, Paul Manzioni, how big a lot is Lot 10?
Lot 10 is 1.9 acres.
Almost 2 acres.
Yes.
So I'm just curious about the aesthetics. I was glad to hear you talk about the architectural design and some of the architectural features that would be more residential. I'm thinking about as people travel, I guess it's north or west on Route 11 and come to the traffic circle and the beautiful new "Welcome to Alton" sign.
Yes.
Just before they get to that and see that beautiful sign for the village, they'll see to the left of them all the stuff that this business will have going on, whether it's vehicles or very large buildings or whatever. So your intention is that the aesthetic of that will be kind of residential looking, and the parking of the vehicles is going to primarily, I'm sure some will be during the business hours and stuff, but did you say around back or?
Yes, the way the design is, the heavy volume of parking is to the back.
Okay.
On the riverside behind the building.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the building it's set up conceptually, so the building is sheltering most of the activities, and the garage doors there are designed to be on the rear facing the river.
Yeah.
There's none out front.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And then obviously for the driveway cuts, that's a DOT thing.
yes.
And there was some concern from Conservation Commission about a lot of it being within the Shoreline Protection Act, and you've already addressed that. You'll be working with DES on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. Anything else, Mr. Heath?
No, sir.
Okay. With that, I'll open up the hearing to any public input. If there's anybody in the public that would like to come forward in favor of this special exception. With none, I'll then turn over to, is there anybody in the public that is in opposition to this proposal? Please come forward. Again, that's none at this point. I'll close it to any public input. If the board is ready, we can walk to the, get right to the worksheet. All right, I'll start it off. A plat has been submitted in accordance with the appropriate criteria in Article 500, Section 520B. Yes.
Agreed.
I agree.
I agree. Appropriateness, the specific site, this is Paul LaRochelle, the specific site is an appropriate location for the use. It is off the main stretch of the road, and it serves many commercial businesses in that area, very, very few residential homes.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, I'll agree that it is an appropriate location.
And Tom Lee, I agree as well.
Factual evidence has not found that the property value in the district will be reduced due to incompatible land uses. There was no real testimony with respect to property values, but what's proposed is not incompatible with the area or the master plan.
Paul Manzioni, I'll agree that evidence is not found that property values in the district will be reduced because of incompatible land use.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree for the same reasons.
There is no valid objection from abutters based on demonstrable fact. We haven't heard anything from abutters when the matter was open to public input.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
In regards to nuisance, there is no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, including the location and design of access ways and off-street parking. The applicant noted about DOT approval for the driveway, and I feel there is no undue nuisance.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, I'll agree, but I would request a condition that it's obvious anyway that the applicant is going to require DOT approval for the traffic coming in or out, whether turning left or right, because without knowing that, it might be difficult to determine whether there would be a hazard, but I'm sure DOT approval will address that.
Sure.
Facilities, adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities will be provided to ensure the proper operation of the proposed use or structure. These will all be done by state and local enforcement and codes.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
And Tom Lee, I agree.
There is adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supply. We've been told by the applicant that they will have a private well and private septic. I would ask the condition that they get DES approval because they're within the 250-foot shoreline setback.
I agree. Paul Manzioni.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
The proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit of this ordinance and intent of the master plan. The ordinance does permit it, of course, by special exception, and the intent of the master plan addresses commercial development. I know there's some thought about going north of the circle, but with commercial, but this is right there, close to the circle, where there's a lot of other commercial development going on, and I think it'll be a very consistent use.
This is Tom Lee, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree. I believe this is in the spirit of the ordinance and the master plan.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Okay, if we could have a motion in regards with the conditions of the DOT and the DES.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve KZ 25-33. Owner Sand Street Investments LLC and agent Apex L Solutions. For the approval of the special exception with the condition of the septic system approvals and highway approvals of directional, whether it's only a right-hand turn or both left and right-hand turns.
For the record, I just add a special exception from Article 400, Section 401D14.
Okay, can we have a second?
I'll second. Paul Manzioni.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
And we'll move to the next case, right next door, case Z 25-34, Apex Land Solutions LLC agent for Sand Street Investments LLC. Map 9, Lot 10-1, Route 11, Henry Wilson Highway, special exception in the rural zone. A special exception is requested for Article 400, Section 401D8 to permit an automotive and truck repair garage.
Tim Morgan, Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept application Z25-34 complete.
I'll second. Paul LaRochelle.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Mr. Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a lot of this is repetitive, but I will hit the highlights and then answer any follow-up questions without dragging it on too long by repeating the same things. But yes, this particular one is on map 9, lot 10-1, which is the lot adjacent to the one we just spoke about. This particular lot is larger in it that it's 3.7 acres. So this is a much larger site, almost twice as large. Again, this was part of the initial wetland and site survey that we did, and identifying the high water mark from the river and also the runoff from some cross drainage from Route 11 and what that does as far as wetland impact. There still is substantial upland to be able to suit the proposed conceptual of a 60 by 80 garage to be used as an automotive and truck repair garage. This is another local business that is losing their location and is trying to stay close to where they currently service and the customer base that they already have. We believe that, that this is an appropriate location for the business based on its proximity to the traffic circle. It's far enough away from the village and other compact residential areas. It's being serviced by a state highway that is very large, breakdown lanes, a lot of straight visibility left and right, no matter how DOT decides that they want us to access. Again, it will be a shared access with the HVAC building. This building is a little bit larger at 60 by 80 versus the 50 by 70. Reason for that is that this business will actually house vehicle lifts inside. So again, same 14-foot ceilings. There is going to be dry storage above with attic trusses. To get the clear span, we do have to use floored truss system that's 24 inches deep to eliminate any kind of beams or lolly columns because they need the floor space for the lifts to be able to service. I guess the notable difference would be obviously the type of business. Where we were talking about the HVAC and doesn't do business in-house, it's more of an in and out type of business. This being an automotive repair garage, there will be a bigger trip count, which is them combined together. That's why we're kind of unsure what DOT is going to require at that point. But notably, you will have customer traffic coming in. I will say more of the in and out is your typical entry during the early mornings because most customers are dropping their vehicles off, and then pickup is usually toward the later of the day. You will see some in and out during the day, but it won't nearly be as impactful as the earlier hours or the evening hours. And the vehicles that'll be on site, they have roughly 4 employees as far as their personal vehicles are concerned when they come to and from. The rest would be overflow from customer vehicles. Again, this one's designed with the majority of the parking behind the building. The service garage entrances will be to the rear. There is one service entrance that is on a gable end, but there is nothing that would face the street side or Route 11 that would be viewed by passing traffic or tourists coming into the community. The structure will look as residential as we can in its type of materials, its makeup. Again, some dormers on the top to break up some of the shape and give a little more curb appeal. We're working with the windows too, maybe some double mulled versus just regular standard double hung. Again, to add a little bit more residential feel from the front impact, sort of sheltering the activities going on in the rear.
Height, less than 35.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Again, the ceiling height on both buildings is being designed at 14 feet. That'll be 14 feet on top of concrete. So you have roughly 12 inches of concrete that'll be exposed. Then 14 feet of building height. The truss design is roughly 24 inches, engineered floor truss. And then there's an attic truss going on top. So you'll probably have I would say it's probably going to be a 7/12 pitch, at least at that point.
Yeah, my biggest concern with it, I'm sorry.
Sure.
All right, is the vehicles, right? And
Yeah.
we have somebody towed in with a transmission problem that's leaking everywhere. We have antifreeze issues. We have a lot of contaminants from vehicles. How is that going to be contained or managed?
A lot of that is all governed at the state level through the EPA. Their licensing as an auto garage also requires them to comply with those rules and regulations about appropriate storage of hazardous materials, appropriate cleanup, appropriate notifications should a spill occur. And I know that this business is particularly, they've been in business for a number of years here in town, and we have not had any problems with in an in-town location where there's been contamination, where there's been spills that have gone unattended to, or materials that weren't properly stored and contained. But most of that oversight is at the state level through the EPA.
A lot of these types of businesses suddenly become a used car lot with multiple vehicles being sold out front. That's not the intent here.
No, not at all. I don't mind. I have the permission of the owner just because most everybody in this room is familiar with the business because we see it every morning. So to give you an idea, this is Wayne's Transmission. They're losing their location out front. We've all seen them operate for many, many years. And I bring that up because I think it's important because it gives you a feel of what you've seen for in and out traffic. And why we really think that this is a much more appropriate location, because I think they've long overgrown the location that they're at. I understand that they're losing the location, and that's why the need to find a new one. But at the same time, they've long outgrown that space, and it's becoming congested in there. And this new facility and concept would allow them to spread out quite a bit and not give the illusion so much that they're busting at the seams. And there is no intention. I think you've seen over the years, they have a, upfront location right now, and there's never been any vehicles out front for sale, or they've never really engaged in any kind of auto sales or used car type of activity, strictly maintenance and repair.
And again, Paul Arshel again, this being the 60 by 80 building, they'll have lifts.
Yes,
on the inside, adequate lifts for doing the work and so on and so forth each day and everything. Will anything be stored in there at the end of the day at night, or will they remain outdoors?
There will be a large number of vehicles that aren't actively being repaired that will be stored outdoors. But yes, the idea and the design is to house 4 lifts. So you can anticipate that most likely at the end of the evening hours, most of those lifts will be occupied with cars that are disabled one way or another under repair. So there will probably be, I mean, there'll be enough storage in that building that they can house up to, I would say roughly about probably 10 vehicles. So there could be more on the floor in there, but definitely the workspace, designated workspaces to be four lifts in there.
Well, it's nice that the parking and storage is towards the rear of the building, in the back of the building, where you don't see that from the road.
Certainly.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, at this point, I'll open up to any public input. If there's anybody in favor of this proposal for the special exception, please come forward.
Keith Chamberlain. I'm in a butter to this property. It's the only buildable lot left as you go east on Route 11. I have a smaller lot, but I do have a highway curb cut, which is rare as hen's teeth to have something on that stretch of highway. I'm in favor of the application. I approve of it. The only thing I could do with my lot is possibly sell the right-of-way off the highway, or I have Norway Plains right now in the process of trying to come up with a septic design for me to build a house there. So it's a little conflicting to see a garage that could have unreasonable hours performing, pneumatic equipment, making a lot of noise, clanging and banging, but there's quite a distance between this proposed property and my lot, probably 300 feet, I would say, at least. So that's going to help the situation somewhat. But to build a house there or to sell the lot as a buildable housing lot to someone, they might not look at that as a positive, having that business so close to them. There's only so many trees that can block the view, but they don't block the sound that much. And I'm sure the planning board can deal with issues like that, and possibly when you look at your plan, you can rearrange your doors so that the noise, the doors aren't open to that western or eastern exposure to my property. But I'm in favor of that section of highway. The river and the highway has created an impossible situation for a commercial business in that end of town, and the traffic circle is ideal to place your business close to, because all the cars that go by, they have dollars in their pockets and they want to spend it somewhere. And that's why they chose the traffic circle to build their businesses. So I think it's a good idea. I realize also, I didn't attend the meetings where Gary Nadeau bought the property to the west of what Ryan is proposing, but he's cleared 2 lots in there and has proposed 12 to 14,000 square foot businesses, 2 of them. So ideally the effect visually is gonna be a commercial stretch of pretty heavy duty commercial businesses. And if you started out with Gary Nadeau's, I understand that what Ryan has proposed, they're a little smaller, but they're still along the commercial venture and line. So it's not going to be chopped up where you have a bunch of different buildings in there. They're all going to be relatively high, relatively big, designed nicely, appealing to the eye. So people driving into town, they're going to see nice buildings before they see the "Welcome to Alton" sign. But, we got to have more tax dollars in this town. Commercial businesses provide that. And I think that little section of land from the circle down to the end of my lot a proposal needs to be approved, and something needs to be done with that intelligently and safely. And, we don't want to destroy the rural character of this town, but somehow we got to get more tax dollars and provide more jobs for people. So for those reasons, I'm in favor of it, and I think it's a good idea. It looks really nice. And I'll deal with it on my property when we come to the planning board and see if we can quiet things down with citing things differently with the doors that are open during the day in the summertime. A lot of times these guys in a repair shop will open the doors up just to get fresh air in, and the next thing you know, you hear all the sounds. And across the river, there aren't a lot of trees from the location of these buildings for the houses in Baxter Park and all the way over closer to water industries. I mean, that sound is gonna travel on those waterways, but, you got heavy traffic right there on Route 11. Traffic's one sound, but it's loud. I don't know whether these businesses would interfere with people's peace and quiet, or whether it's just gonna be another add-on during the course of business during the day. So we'll have to deal with it as we can, the best we can. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. With that, is there anybody in opposition? Anybody in opposition to this proposal? That'd be a no, so at this point, we'll close it to any public input. If we could get to the worksheet. I'll start it off. A plat has been submitted in accordance with the appropriate criteria in Article 500, Section 520B. Yes.
Paul Rochelle, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
The specific site is an appropriate location for this use.
Tim Morgan, I agree, that's an ideal location just off the traffic circle for a business.
Paul Manzioni, I agree for the same reasons I did the prior one, but I think the good thing about this is it's in close proximity to the traffic circle where there's a lot of other commercial uses.
It's Tom Lane, I agree.
Factual evidence is not found that the property value in the district will be reduced due to incompatible land uses. There hasn't been any testimony with respect to property values changing, but this is an area that can be enhanced by commercial development.
Paul Manzioni, I agree that factual evidence is not found that property values will be reduced.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Paul Rochelle, I agree for the same reasons.
Paul Manzioni, there is no valid objection from abutters based on demonstrable fact. We did hear from an abutter who approved it, and there are some issues that were described by the abutter, but I think those will be addressed by the planning board, and I think it's been described here that the aesthetic of the buildings and so forth, similar to the prior one, so there's no valid objection.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Paul Rochelle, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Regards to nuisance, there is no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, including the location and design of access ways and off-street parking. Much like the previous unit, I think that area has to certainly come under conditions of the DOT, as we previously mentioned on the past case, based upon the location, but I don't feel there's any undue nuisance.
No, I agree, Paul Rochelle.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
Adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities will be provided to ensure the proper operation of the proposed use or structure. Again, this will be under permitted uses from the building department, state, and town.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
Tom Lee, I agree.
There is adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supply. The applicant has said they will have a well for water supply and on-site sewage. We just ask that they conform with DES shoreline setback requirements.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
I agree, Tom Lee.
Paul Rochelle, I agree.
The proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit of this ordinance and the intent of the master plan, I think, for the same reasons that I articulated with regard to the prior application for special exception. It allows this, the ordinance allows this under these circumstances, and the intent of the master plan does include commercial development in the right locations.
For all those reasons, I agree, Tom Lee.
I agree, Paul Rochelle, for the same reason, and also that I do believe that this is in the master plan, the spirit of the master plan, taking a nice small business and relocating it into a location where it makes sense, where keeping the business in town.
Morgan, I agree.
Okay, can we have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve KZ 225-34, Apex Land Solutions LLC agent for Sand Street Investment LLC for special exception from Article 400, Section 401, D 8, to permit the automotive and truck repair garage.
Tim Morgan, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, sir. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Have a good evening. So it looked pretty good.
Okay, moving forward, previous business, I believe. Almost giving me a big no. New business, I think we're good. And so that's a big yes. Okay, approval of the minutes. This is a little contentious.
New business potentially, and I can, I'm only doing this now under new business because I can only talk to you guys about this when we're in session because it's involving, as you saw, I have a matter before the board. And I just want to make sure that if anybody has any issues with, you know, it's awkward for me to be on the board and have a application pending before the board. And of course, I recuse myself and I sit out there. But if anybody, and the last time this came up, you know, I resigned from the board because I didn't want to be in that legal situation. But if any board member has any concerns or issues, you know, we can't discuss them privately. We can discuss it in a public session. So I just want to bring that up, and I would be happy to recuse myself, step down, take a temporary leave, or do whatever is appropriate given this difficult situation for me. I don't want to make it difficult for any of you guys. So I just want to address that with you. I can't say this to you if I see you on the street or whatever. So it's my opportunity to mention that. And please, you know, let me know. And I'm happy to, if anybody has any concerns or whatever about my being here, I'm happy to, you know.
You use yourself when it's necessary.
Yeah.
You step aside. I have no issues with that.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think Frank would rather you not be around, but that's a different matter. But I feel very confident, knowing you from the board and respect you greatly, that I also, I'm very clear and non-biased in regards to, I treat you like any other applicant. And I think I can speak for most of the board on that.
Absolutely.
I think it's a sensitive issue, but I agree with the rest of the board. I just think it'd be important for us to get this on the record when you do come before the board. Otherwise, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Great.
Good. Thank you.
Well, that was a good move.
Yeah, good.
Now we have the approval of the minutes, and there's been some issues because, and I really appreciate everybody, you know, as tedious as it may be to say our names when we speak, but I think you'll see that in these minutes, talking to a couple of you, that there's been some discrepancies here on transcribing these minutes. They're not sure who is saying what, so I think we're bringing that to a close as long as we introduce ourselves. So go ahead, Paul. Did you have some concerns?
Yeah, I had some concerns with some of the statements that was said that I said. Going into, let's see, page 5 of 18, 181, 179, discussion continues, septic but is off microphone, so that's what it said. Where it says Paul LaRochelle, this is 181. Now the septic system is shifting gears. I never said that. That wasn't me, and I do believe, in my opinion, that was Joe.
I do too, as well.
I never said that.
Yeah.
What number is that, 181?
180, or if you want to call it 180, 181 to 187. I did discuss the RV. I did discuss the fact that it was a log cabin, and I asked for the transcript or the manufacturer's guide from the applicant, and I spoke on that. I don't see any of that on this. I spoke on that issue, and that it was my opinion that that was not your typical RV, that it was a log cabin on a frame. None of that's in here.
I do believe line 179 was not a discussion about the septic, but it was actually discussion between you and I in regards to that brochure. But it wasn't on the record.
It wasn't on the record.
So that's where I think that was omitted because our mics were off. We were mulling through that brochure.
But it was still deliberation.
Yeah,
It
but
was just,
so I don't think it was a deliberation over septic. I think it was more about the building material.
right.
And then I think, to your point, I had the same one that Joe Manzik did that talk on line 181. He did that paragraph.
That was not me. And then another one, page 2 of number 86, Paul Lawrence shall move to grant the request for a rehearing of the application. I think that was Joe. I don't think I made that, because I think I was in opposition. I do believe I was in opposition for that, and I don't think I made to grant it. That was Joe again. That wasn't me.
I have re-listened to the meeting and taken, like, I've typed up everything that was said.
Yeah.
So that we can get down, because some of this wasn't clear for notices of decision. I don't know how comfortable you guys are. I have a couple of major changes in here. But one of them is just below that on number 78, line 78, on the same page we're just on.
Yep.
It talks about the special exception for Miramichi Hill Road. It does say Paul Lair shall move to deny the request. And I think it was actually Tim that moved to deny the request for the continuance. And then to deny the application without prejudice.
Yes.
You can certainly verify that, both of you. And the motion was seconded by Tom. So I've written up what I thought was, what I heard to verify just some of the housekeeping type things.
Okay.
But
you know,
on the prior one, this Paul Manzioni, where Paul LaRochelle doesn't think he moved to grant the rehearing, that might have been Paul Manzioni, that may have been me. And I wonder if Tim was the one who seconded it.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, I think I might be right, and we were kind of in favor of that anyway, and I think I was the one who moved. Again, it's my recollection, that's it, and I don't know how reliable that is.
Yeah, Joe has not come forward to grant request.
No, because
He's just not at that level yet.
And Joe, I don't think was here for that original hearing. I
Right.
think Joe was kind of sitting it out on this a little bit, so, and then the other thing about this is I ended up, I think, leaving after that first case, because I was recused on Rick Lundy's case. I recused myself on that. And then I ended up leaving. So for that reason, I'm going to abstain on any vote to approve the minutes, except that I would note that because I left on page 18 of 18, I was not the one who moved to adjourn, even though that's my favorite motion. I try to be the one always who moves to adjourn, but I wasn't here to get to do that, so I don't know who did it.
Okay.
Oh, there was also another spot.
Well, it was seconded by Mr. Morgan, so Frank was chairing.
Yes.
I believe I made.
if you want to not vote on approval of these minutes tonight, we can look at them closer.
Probably a good idea.
I think that's a good idea.
It may be the best thing to do, instead of going through all of the
you're taking notes.
changes,
defer.
because I'm a little more familiar with you guys. I listened to the one case that I had a lot of questions about. So I'm focused just on that one case.
Okay.
But I'll be happy to go through that again.
I got one more thing to point out on page 6 of 18, down to 245. Again, it says Paul Larochelle, I would talk to an electrician, and these plumbers who said, who have done this installation, that was Joe.
That was Joe
Definitely-
Mankus.
That was Joe,
Yeah,
that was
That
not me.
was Joe.
Yeah. You guys don't even sound the same.
And again, there's some other things that I said that are not even on here,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so we will
Mr.
take
Chair-
up,
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we continue the approval of the minutes of August 7th until the October meeting.
I'll second, Paul Larochelle.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Okay. No correspondence? And could we get a motion for adjournment?
I would, Mr. Chairman, move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you.
Is it helpful, Norma, to hear us with the names? Huh? It's gonna help. It's gotta get